Hey guys, welcome to another episode on the Wireless Audiophile. My name is Pete and today we're going to be talking about a piece of equipment, earbuds, that gives you true physical transparency mode, and that is the Sony Linkbuds. Why do I say it's true physical transparency? Let's find out in today's video. Now, a lot of headphones and earpieces today, they cater to noise cancelling. They block out external sound so you can hear your music, you can hear the speech properly. But what happens is also it reduces your environmental awareness, so you don't actually hear sounds from the outside. If you're out running and if you're out and about, you're commuting, you're walking along the roads, then it is not exactly the safest thing to do. And when you're actually even in a Zoom call or in a teleconference, when you can't hear your own voice, it sounds very unnatural. It sounds, to a certain point, if you feel how I feel, it feels uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to summarize this whole video upfront for you, so you don't have to stay on to hear the whole presentation if you don't want to. This Sony Linkbuds is the ultimate in transparency mode. It is true physical transparency. Why? Because there's actually a hole that lets sound get into your ears. Now let me switch camera angle so you can see it better for yourself. Now this is what it is, right? If you look at the earpiece, it actually has a hole in the diaphragm, right? This is very, very strange, right? You can actually see right through it. This part blocks out your ear, but there is a physical hole that allows external sounds to actually travel through to reach your ears. So this is the true transparency. Now, a lot of headphones, including the Sony WH-1000XM4 or the AirPods Max or the Bose QC45, they all use some kind of active noise cancelling. They block out the external sound, but they do have a transparency mode. And that transparency mode is actually software, is software enabled, right? Basically, it takes the microphone, it passes the sound recorded from the environment through the microphone, and it plays it back to you. So there is a minute delay, although you may not realize it, but it definitely doesn't sound natural. Now, what the Sony Linkbuds do is that it doesn't use the mic to pick out the external sound and play it back to you. It actually lets the actual sound travel through this itself. Now, if you are looking for something that has pure, true transparency mode in the market, this is the summary for you. This pair of earbuds from Sony, the Sony Linkbuds, is your answer. Now, if you're going to be staying around, then I will talk a little bit more about this piece of equipment and covering a little bit of the use cases as well as my experience using it over the past couple of weeks. Now, one of the most important factors that you look for when you look for a piece of audio equipment, especially this kind of wireless stuff, is the audio sound quality and the stability of the signal. Now, how Sony has implemented this is that for both the left and the right earpiece, when you are connected to your phone, there is actually a direct connection between each of these to your phone. So it doesn't transmit from your phone to one earpiece and from one earpiece hops to the other earpiece. It's basically two direct connections to your phone so that you can hear a very, very stable connection. So in terms of connectivity, it goes via SBC or it goes via AAC if you're using an Apple device. But this has connectivity to Windows, to Android, basically anything that runs on Bluetooth. And the pairing is actually pretty easy on Android or Windows devices because they have the one-tap pairing thing. I didn't really have much of a problem pairing it with my iPhone. I am strictly in the iOS camp. Well, you do have to press the connect button at the back of the case, right? And oh well, this is the charging port. It uses USB-C, thank goodness. Okay, but anyway, you have to press this button here to actually start pairing and connecting. I would do well to actually read the instructions a little bit, otherwise you might struggle a little bit with the pairing. But in any case, once you set it in the pairing mode, the pairing should be relatively easy for you. Now, so that's the connectivity. How does this sound like? When I first put this on, I thought that my main objective was for transparency, right? So without playing any sound, without any music, you put it on. Well, actually, it doesn't block out anything at all. You are able to hear your surrounding. You are able to hear your own voice when you're talking, and you're able to hear and talk to anyone else. So it doesn't sound unnatural. The transparency is real transparency. You can't even call it transparency, because basically you're hearing the outside world as it is, as though there's nothing blocking your ears. So I didn't expect much on the audio quality. So now I'm going to be talking about the audio quality. When I started playing some music through it, I was like, this is not really accurate, but the soundstage is expensive, and the whole music, it sounded so natural. I was wondering, am I actually listening to the music from the phone speaker, or from the MacBook speaker, from the laptop speaker, or am I actually hearing the sound that's coming from the Linkbuds, which are in my ears? And I had to remove them. Oh yeah, they are actually coming from the Linkbuds in my ears. It sounds that natural, all right? In terms of bass response, granted, right, these aren't going to be pushing the most amount of bass, because the seal, technically there's no seal, so you don't actually get that effect of blocking out external sound, and thus increasing the sound to noise ratio. But the bass response was actually adequate. Okay, I would say that it's adequate. Treble response, I wouldn't say that it is exceedingly good, but basically voices come through pretty well, and that's how it does for music. Now, in terms of sound quality, I'm going to be talking about it when it comes to using it as a pair of equipment, a piece of equipment for conducting your teleconference. And that was originally my intention for this pair of earbuds as well. Now, when you put them in your ears and you start talking, you hear your own voice, right? So if you realize, when I'm doing my videos, I don't monitor myself, I don't wear something over, because I can't gauge my own volume when I'm talking if my ears are being blocked. But when I wear this, I actually can't feel anything at all. So I'm able to hear my own voice perfectly, without latency, without lag, because it is not electronically being captured by a mic and then played back to me. It is actually my own voice traveling through the air, physically penetrating this particular hole here and reaching my eardrums. So very natural sound. That's why I say these are the ultimate in transparency, the king of transparency mode, because it is technically not even transparency mode enabled. Right? There's no disabling the transparency, because the hole is always going to be there unless you block out something. No, all right. And it doesn't use any silicon tape to actually seal that your inner drums from your eardrums from the external sound at all. So the transparency mode is technically always on. But for calls, I find it fantastic, because I'm able to push my voice across to myself, so I hear that audio feedback of my own voice, and I'm able to regulate my volume a lot better. Now, if I'm in the office, or if anybody needs to call out to me and get my attention, they just do so as per normal. And these are very, very small, very inconspicuous. It goes inside your ear. There's really nothing sticking out like a stem, like the AirPods, where it comes out and somebody is able to tell that you're actually wearing something. This one is very, very inconspicuous, very, very small. And if you switch to the camera angle here, you can see that this is the size of my finger. It goes into your ears. This is the right side marked by red. I'm going to be putting it in my ear, and you can see, well, you may not be able to see it, but this is how it looks like. Okay, it doesn't protrude out at all. So it is not only transparent in the audio sense, it is also almost transparent in the visual sense, as in you can't really tell that somebody's wearing this at all. Now, talking about the sound quality when it comes to music, and talking about the sound quality when it comes to speech, basically your teleconference calls, I have to make a very, very important point. Now, Sony rated these for 5.5 hours of listening. They were quite careful in choosing the correct language. If you put it back into the case actually itself is a charger, and it charges this pair of earbuds for another 12 hours of listening time, for a combined total of 17.5 hours of charging. Now, that is listening, right? But when you are using it for teleconference, when there's a need to activate the mic to pick out your voice and play it back, these actually comes in at about 2.5 hours, rated by Sony. Granted, I actually tried it out in a video conference. My video conference didn't last very long. The first one was over an hour. The second one that I brought this into, I was a little bit worried that it wouldn't hold up, but it actually held up for another hour plus. So in total, it was going to be about 2.5 hours maybe, so as per rated, and there was still a little bit of charge left in them. Now, the good thing about these earbuds is that because Sony implemented it in a way that the connection is actually between the phone and each of these earpieces, so there are actually two direct connections, right? As opposed to the phone passing to one of these and then it bridges to the other earpiece. This is a true wireless, as in a true wireless stereo. So as in it actually connects twice, right? But you still see it as one device. And when that happens, you can actually put one in the casing and you put the other in your ear and you can swap them out, right, as you are using. So if you are okay with just mono and just listening to the other party using one side, then technically there is no downtime in between charges, in between your calls. So that's how it can help you get through the entire day, right, of teleconferencing, even if the battery life is actually shorter when you're using them for communicating purposes. In terms of music, 5 hours, 5.5 hours, I didn't actually break that, but I never ran into any battery issues with these guys at all. So there are a couple of features on this guy that I think is worth mentioning. So the common features, I won't talk a little bit too much because a lot of other manufacturers actually do that. A lot of other Sony headphones actually do that as well, like the EQ and the DSEE. I won't touch too much on that, but this has a very interesting feature which they call wide tap. Now, these earbuds are actually very, very small. So the moment you put them into your ear, there's no visible control, there's no touch control, there's no tap control on the earbuds itself. But when you turn on wide tap through Sony's software on your phone, you are actually able to control it left and right independently for playback control, for volume control, by just tapping this area right on your ear. Well, not on your ear, but between your cheek and your ear. And if you just tap it, it pauses the music or plays the music, or you can double tap to forward, you can triple tap to reverse the track, previous track, and you can actually double tap to increase the volume and triple tap to reduce the volume, although I wouldn't recommend doing that because you're going to be tapping like I don't know, a gazillion times before the volume reaches your exact volume that you want. I would say that it is far easier to change the volume on the slider using your phone rather than just tapping away like, I think each tap is like maybe an 8 to 10% reduction or increment in the volume. So I don't recommend doing that. It's going to look very silly after a while. But, this whole tapping thing on your physical body, on your skull itself, is actually pretty intuitive, right? You don't actually have to reach out and tap this inside, which can amplify the sound, and it's kind of irritating. But when you tap it on your whole area here without actually having to tap the earbuds itself, it is actually not very intrusive in terms of the sound that is being generated by the taps that is transmitted to your ears. So that is something that I do appreciate. So in conclusion, this pair of earbuds, to me, I would say that the main selling point is actually the so-called transparency mode, which is enabled by default and forced physically, which allows your environmental cues to reach your ears. So that is the true first selling point. Now, the other thing that I didn't think too much of was the sound quality, the sound that is coming through this, the music, the voice, everything. It sounds super, super natural. No, so I didn't mean supernatural as in like a ghost kind of supernatural, but it is very natural sounding, right? The voices come across clearly, and it actually helps cut the environmental noise from wherever you are, right? If you're on a busy road, or if you're on a bus, or if you are on even the train or the subway, it actually cuts out some of those sounds. So whenever you're talking to anyone, your intended audience on the other side of the call, actually, they don't quite pick up some of these calls. So in terms of sound, in terms of quality of speech, actually, this pair of earphones do fantastically well. Now, if you're going to try to use this for music, you will be impressed by the soundstage, you'll be impressed by the natural sounding feel of these headphones more than the bass or the treble. So if you are one of those kind who wants a lot of bass in your music, maybe this is not the pair for you. But if you appreciate natural sound, if you appreciate the fact that the soundstage is, it's just coming from an unidentified source, and you feel immersed in the music, then this is the pair that you might be looking for. Vocals came across very, very well, by the way. And for that, meaning to say when your music is very vocal heavy, or if you are using it primarily for teleconferencing, this pair of earbuds will actually do fantastically well. That's what I have to share for this pair of Sony Linkbuds. If there are any questions that you have, do feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. And if this kind of video and this kind of content is important to you, of interest to you, I do encourage you to subscribe to my channel where I cover wireless audiophile products. So I use audiophile, the word, quite loosely. It is not the audiophile that, spends $30,000 on a pair of cables, that kind of stuff, but things that you and I can afford and a lot of times like to use, like to experiment with new technology in this field, then I welcome you to join me on my journey on this channel, and I'll see you in my next video.